My parents tried to steal the home I spent 15 years building, but my fight exposed their greed, protected my freedom, and redefined family forever. I sit at the dining table, my fingers tracing the edge of the crystal water glass that matches all the others, perfectly arranged around my parents' mahogany table. Parker's graduation celebration has turned our suburban Chicago home into a showcase. White roses spill from Mom's best vases, the good china gleams under chandelier light, and Dad's imported scotch makes the rounds among his golf buddies. 23 years old and finished with college, the golden child complete. Dad rises from his chair at the head of the table, tapping his crystal glass with a silver spoon. The sharp ping silences the room. I glance at Mom, catch her looking away. Her hand flutters to adjust her pearl necklace, a nervous tell I've recognized since childhood. Everyone, if I could have your attention. Dad's voice carries that specific tone he reserves for business deals and important announcements. Today isn't just about celebrating Parker's graduation from Northwestern. Parker, across the table, straightens his shoulders beneath his tailored blazer. His smile holds the confident expectation of someone who's never had to wonder if good things are coming his way. "Catherine, bring it in," Dad calls, and his secretary appears from the hallway with a small wrapped box tied with a blue ribbon. Dad hands it to Parker with ceremonial solemnity. "Son, your mother and I couldn't be prouder of your accomplishment. 4 years, business degree, ready to join the family firm." Parker accepts the box, his expression pleasantly surprised, but not shocked. He's been conditioned to expect rewards his entire life. "Open it," Mom urges, her voice bright with excitement. Parker tugs at the ribbon, lifts the lid, and removes a single key with a leather fob. His eyebrows lift. "That," Dad announces to the room, "is the key to Unit 1805 at the Waterstone, downtown Riverview. We thought you deserved a proper place to start your professional life. The Waterstone, where 2-bedroom condos start at $450,000. The table erupts in applause and exclamations. Glasses raise. I maintain my smile, muscles tight in my cheeks. The same smile I wore when Parker got a car for his 16th birthday while I received driving lessons. The smile I perfected when he attended Northwestern on our parents' dime while I pieced together online classes between bookkeeping shifts. My water glass remains half full. I don't trust my hand not to shake. Hours later, guests filter out with final congratulations. I stack dessert plates in the kitchen, scraping uneaten cake into the garbage. Dad appears in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Sierra, we need to discuss your living situation." I place the plates carefully in the sink. "My living situation?" Now that Parker's settled, we're reevaluating household arrangements. He says this like he's discussing a business restructure. "Starting next month, we'll need you to contribute $1,200 for rent." The kitchen seems to tilt slightly. "Rent? You're 25, working 2 jobs. It's time you paid your fair share." Fair share. Last year I contributed $15,000 to household expenses, groceries, utilities, property tax payments when their cash flow tightened, not including the hours spent organizing their chaotic finances, preparing tax documents, making sense of Dad's scattered business receipts. "I see." My voice remains steady while something cracks inside my chest. "It's what adults do, Sierra. Pay their way." Behind him, Parker passes the doorway, new key twirling around his finger as he heads upstairs. This moment isn't unexpected. It's the culmination of a pattern so familiar I should have anticipated it. Me working late nights on family bookkeeping while Parker went to parties. Dad dismissing my accounting certification progress as glorified bookkeeping while funding Parker's business degree. Mom telling her friend on the phone last month, voice hushed but not enough. Parker is our family's future. I place my hands flat on the counter. "May I ask why there's such a difference in how you're treating us?" Dad's expression shifts to impatience. "When you accomplish something like graduating college, we'll talk. I'm 3 credits away from completing my accounting degree." Silence stretches between us. Something flickers across his face. Surprise, quickly masked. He didn't know or didn't remember. "That's nice," he recovers. "But Parker finished at a real university, not some online program." I nod once, the movement controlled. "Thank you for clarifying." Later, in my childhood bedroom, I pull out my record book. 5 years of financial contributions meticulously documented. The evidence of my invisible work. Behind it on my bookshelf sits Grandma Clara's photo album. I remove it, turning to a photo of us at her lake house. Me at 12, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at something just out of frame. I flip to the back of the album where she kept important notes. A small index card slips out, her elegant handwriting still clear. SB, trust minus 250K, my hands grow still. SB, Sierra Bennett. I reach for my phone and text Aunt Susan. I need to talk about Grandma Clara's trust. The text sends with a small swoosh sound, like something being set free. The next day, the vinyl booth at Cassidy's Diner squeaks beneath me as I shift my weight. 30 miles from home, this faded roadside establishment with its perpetual smell of bacon grease serves a purpose beyond its mediocre coffee. Nobody from my parents' social circle would be caught dead here. Aunt Susan slides into the booth opposite me, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a loose bun. Dark circles beneath her eyes betray a sleepless night. She clutches her purse against her chest like armor. "You look just like Clara," she says softly, studying my face. "She'd be so proud of the woman you've become." The waitress deposits 2 mugs of coffee on the table. I wrap my hands around mine, seeking warmth rather than caffeine. "Thank you for meeting me," I say. "I found something in Grandma's photo album." Susan nods, lips pressed tight, her fingers drumming against her purse. A nervous rhythm. "I've been waiting for this conversation for 3 years. The statement hangs between us. Confirmation of something I hadn't fully allowed myself to believe until now. My stomach tightens. Susan reaches into her purse and pulls out a manila folder worn at the edges. She hesitates, then slides it across the table. "Clara established this trust when you were 16, she says. $250,000 for your education and future. I was the witness, but Robert had power of attorney after her stroke." I open the folder with steady hands, though my heart hammers against my ribs. The document on top bears the letterhead of Jameson Financial Trust. My name in bold type, Sierra Elizabeth Bennett Educational Trust. "He took it," I say, the words flat rather than questioning. Susan's eyes fill with tears. I suspected, but I didn't want to believe my own brother capable of this. I flip through bank statements, each page a fresh revelation. Systematic withdrawals beginning in 2018 and accelerating through 2020. The timing aligns perfectly with Parker's college tuition payments. Northwestern University's name appears repeatedly in the transaction details. "Grandma specifically set this up for you," Susan says. "She worried about how Robert favored Parker. She wanted to ensure you had educational opportunities regardless of your parents' choices." My fingers stop at a transfer authorization form. At the bottom, my signature. Except I never signed it. "This isn't my signature," I say, voice tight. Susan reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. "I know." The diner seems to recede around me as I stare at the forgery. Not just fraud, but betrayal on the most personal level. Someone studied my handwriting, practiced it, perfected it enough to fool bank officials. "When did these transfers happen?" I ask, flipping back to the largest withdrawals. Susan hesitates. "The main transfers were in April of your senior year." April 2018. The month I spent 3 days in the hospital after collapsing from exhaustion. 3 days I barely remember through the haze of sedatives and sleep. A memory surfaces, Dad bringing paperwork from school to my hospital bed, me signing without reading, trust implicit despite our differences. My teenage belief that despite everything, certain lines wouldn't be crossed. "They used my hospitalization," I say. The words taste like metal. Susan nods. "Robert told me you had agreed to help Parker with his college expenses, that you'd sign the forms willingly." I continue through the documents, each page another piece of the puzzle. Who forged the later signatures? Susan looks down at her untouched coffee. Parker has always been good at mimicking handwriting, since childhood. Something clicks into place. The caricatures Parker drew of teachers in high school, the forged excuse notes, the joke signatures he practiced. skills encouraged and laughed at within our family. This was never about me not being good enough, I say, the realization dawning like a cold sun. They knew exactly what they were doing. The drive home feels longer than 30 miles. I park in the driveway but remain in the car, scrolling through my phone to collect my thoughts. My mother's Instagram page appears in my feed, a photo from Parker's graduation party, everyone smiling beneath filtered perfection. The caption reads, "So proud of our perfect family, Parker's success and Sierra's uniqueness, blessed mama. Proud parents." Uniqueness, the word she uses when she can't find actual accomplishments to celebrate. I enter the house through the side door, voices carrying from my father's study. The door stands ajar, just enough for me to see my parents and Parker huddled around the desk. "The Anderson account should be your first priority," my father says to Parker. "It's the cornerstone of the family business. Eventually, all of this will be yours to manage." My mother's hand rests on Parker's shoulder. "You'll do wonderfully, sweetheart. You were born for this." Their vision of the future snaps into focus with crystal clarity. My contributions were expected, Parker's rewarded. My labor was obligation, his was preparation for inheritance. In my bedroom, I pull out my phone and dial a number I've had saved for years but never used. Mark Delaney's office answers, a crisp voice. "This is Sierra Bennett," I say. "I need to speak with Mark about a trust fund established by my grandmother, Clara Bennett." 20 minutes later, I'm walking Mark through the documents, his face growing increasingly serious on my laptop screen. "Sierra, this isn't just unfair, it's illegal," he says finally. "Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, misappropriation of fiduciary funds. Your father could face serious consequences." I stare at the documents spread across my bed. I don't want revenge. I want what's mine, and then peace. Mark nods. "I understand. We'll handle this with discretion but firmly." When I return from the bathroom, a document lies centered on my bed, a rental agreement, my name typed neatly at the top, monthly rate $1,200. Clause 8B highlighted in yellow, failure to make timely payments will result in immediate termination of residency. My mother appears in the doorway, fingers twisting her wedding ring. "Your father just wants you to learn responsibility," she says, voice soft but unconvincing. I look at her directly. "I've been responsible since I was 16. She opens her mouth, closes it again. No defense comes. The silence speaks volumes. Before dawn, I pack methodically essential documents, financial records, clothing, family photos showing Grandma Clara. I leave my childhood stuffed animals arranged on the bed, sentinels of a past I'm finally ready to leave behind. The attic yields one final discovery, Grandma Clara's journals, dusty but intact in a cedar chest. I flip through pages of elegant handwriting until a passage catches my eye. I worry about Robert's influence on the children, especially Sierra. He views her strength as competition rather than legacy. I must protect what I can. The first light of morning filters through my bedroom window as I place a handwritten letter on my perfectly made bed. 3 pages detailing every contribution I've made to this household, every betrayal I've documented, every truth I now understand. The front door closes behind me with a quiet click. No dramatic slam, no tearful goodbye, just the soft sound of one chapter ending and another beginning. The morning sun glints off Lake Michigan as I pull into Aunt Susan's gravel driveway. Her cottage, weather-worn cedar siding with white trim, nestled among tall pines that whisper in the Michigan breeze. A world away from suburban Chicago, a world away from them. I cut the engine and sit for a moment, hands tight on the steering wheel. The 2-hour drive north gave me time to cycle through every emotion, rage, grief, betrayal, until I arrived at something steadier, determination. Susan appears on the porch, wiping her hands on a faded apron, her silver-streaked hair caught in the wind. She waves, and something in her smile reminds me so much of Grandma Clara that my throat tightens. "You made it." She hurries down the steps, pulling me into a hug that smells of cinnamon and coffee. When she steps back, her eyes are bright with unshed tears. "Your grandmother bought this place for me, you know. She believed in taking care of the family properly." The word properly hangs between us. Everything my parents' treatment wasn't. Inside, the cottage is all warm wood and worn comfort. A bay window overlooks the lake, catching morning light. Susan shows me to a small bedroom with twin beds covered in handmade quilts. The other room has better light, she says. I thought you might want it for studying. The second bedroom has been transformed. A desk faces the window with a view of water and sky. A lamp, extension cords, and office supplies wait in neat arrangements. I remember you mentioned needing 3 more credits, Susan says simply. Figured you'd want to keep going. My throat tightens again. Such a small kindness, acknowledgement of my goals, and yet so foreign. I set up my laptop, arrange my textbooks, create a makeshift office. While the files download, I stand at the window. The lake stretches blue and vast, a stark contrast to the inside of me. 3 credits. Just 3 more credits before I have what they said I never would. That evening, my phone begins its predictable symphony. Mom, Sierra, please tell us where you are. We're worried sick. Mom, your father isn't himself. Please come home so we can talk. Mom, at least tell me you're safe. I place the phone screen down on the table, but not before seeing Dad's email notification. Subject, family financial documents. Sierra, return all financial records immediately. Your removal of these documents constitutes theft of family property. Susan watches me from her armchair, a book forgotten in her lap. They'll keep trying, she says softly. I nod, picking up my phone one last time. A text from Parker appears. Dad's furious. What did you take? Not, where are you? Not, are you okay? Just concerned for what their father might have lost. I power off the phone completely. They're more worried about the documents than about me. Susan's mouth tightens. I'm not surprised. The next morning, Mark Delaney arrives. Aunt Susan's lawyer friend looks nothing like I expected. Weathered face, flannel shirt, more lumberjack than attorney. But his eyes are sharp as he reviews the trust documentation spread across Susan's kitchen table. Your grandmother was thorough, he says, tapping a clause with his index finger. Robert had fiduciary responsibility. Using these funds for Parker's education was a clear breach. I push forward another document. He forged my signature here and here. Mark nods, making notes. We'll start with a formal letter. Give them a chance to make this right. They won't, I say, certainty cold in my stomach. No, probably not, Mark agrees, but the court will want to see we tried. Later, while scanning bank records, I discover something that stops my breath. The down payment for Parker's condo came directly from the trust. Mark takes the statement, whistles low, not even attempting to hide it by that point. The certified letter goes out the next day. I picture it arriving at their perfect house, my father's face as he signs for it. The bomb of legal language detonating in their carefully constructed world. Life at the cottage falls into rhythm. Morning classes online, afternoons helping Susan with her garden, evenings reviewing for my final accounting exam. The lake becomes my constant, sometimes glass still, sometimes storm-tossed, always there. 2 weeks after arriving, I submit my final exam. The screen flashes my score immediately, 97%. Susan insists on celebrating. She brings out a bottle of champagne and 2 flutes that belong to Grandma Clara. To your persistence, she toasts. I clink my glass against hers, a bittersweet ache blooming beneath my ribs. I always thought they'd be here for this moment. The next day, a thick envelope arrives with my accounting degree certificate inside. Seeing my name in formal script, Sierra Elizabeth Bennett, strikes me as both victory and indictment. I've done what they said I couldn't, without what they owed me. The celebration is short-lived. Mark calls with news. Your father's attorney responded. They're denying everything. His voice tightens. Sierra, they've included your hospitalization records as evidence you're mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. The medical records from senior year, exhaustion, dehydration, anxiety, twisted into a weapon. A particularly brutal chill settles in my chest. There's more, Mark continues. Parker submitted an affidavit claiming you verbally gifted him your inheritance. A laugh escapes me, brittle and sharp. Of course he did. That evening, my mother calls Susan's landline. I sit at the kitchen table, watching Susan's face change as she listens. She's here. She's safe, Susan says firmly. Elaine, I think... She stops, listening, then holds out the phone to me, eyebrows raised in question. I take it, press it to my ear. Sierra. My mother's voice breaks. Why are you doing this to our family? The familiar guilt rises, then recedes just as quickly. Family, as if that word still means what it once did. I'm not doing anything to our family, I say evenly. I'm simply claiming what's mine. The next day brings unexpected support. Clara's former financial advisor, Michael Winters, contacts Mark. I've been retired 5 years, he explains on the conference call, but I kept copies of everything. Your grandmother was explicit, Sierra. That money was for you. Robert assured me he would honor her wishes. More evidence accumulates. A paper trail so clear even Mark grows confident. This isn't just improper, it's clear-cut fraud, he says, scheduling preliminary hearings. We need to prepare for court. I imagine facing them across a courtroom. My father's cold stare, my mother's tears, Parker's confusion. I need to be present, I tell Mark. I need to look them in the eyes. That evening, searching through Grandma Clara's old Bible that Susan keeps on her bookshelf, a sealed envelope falls out, my name written in Clara's elegant hand. Inside, yellowed stationery holds her final message. My dear Sierra, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I've always seen Robert's favoritism toward Parker, even when Elaine couldn't. I fear what this might mean for you once I'm gone. The trust I've established is meant for your independence, your education, your future. $250,000 might seem extravagant to some, but I've watched you work twice as hard for half the recognition your brother receives. This money isn't charity, it's justice. You have always been the strong one, the one who sees clearly. That strength will carry you forward when the truth emerges. Remember that your worth isn't measured by their recognition of it. All my love. Grandma Clara. The letter trembles in my hands. She knew. She had always known and tried to protect me from beyond the grave. I fold the letter carefully, place it back in its envelope. Standing at the window, watching twilight settle over the lake, I make a silent promise to the grandmother who saw me when no one else did. I will reclaim what's mine with the quiet dignity she taught me. Not for revenge, but for justice. Not with drama, but with truth. The water darkens to indigo as the last light fades. Tomorrow we prepare for court. I arrive at the courthouse an hour early the next day. The marble floors gleam under fluorescent lights, echoing with each step of my sensible black heels. Mark walks beside me, briefcase in hand, his presence steady and reassuring. You ready for this? He asks, voice low. I nod once. Been ready for years, just didn't know it. We settle in the hallway outside courtroom B. I straighten my charcoal blazer, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from my skirt. Every document is organized in labeled folders, every statement rehearsed in my mind during sleepless nights at Aunt Susan's cottage. The main doors swing open. Dad strides in first, his attorney flanking his right side. His silver hair is freshly cut, his suit expensively tailored, but his complexion has a grayish undertone I've never seen before. His eyes lock onto mine across the corridor, hard and cold as January ice on Lake Michigan. I hold his gaze without flinching, something I couldn't have done 6 months ago. Mom enters behind him, fingers twisting her pearl necklace. Her eyes are rimmed with red, makeup carefully applied to hide what sleepless nights can't conceal. When she spots me, her steps falter. Parker trails behind them both, studying the floor tiles. His shoulders hunch forward inside his navy suit. He looks smaller somehow. Mark touches my elbow. They're scared, he whispers. Remember that. Mom breaks away from Dad, approaching with outstretched hands. Sierra, please, we can still be a family. I take a half step back. We are family, Mom. That's why this hurts so much. Her face crumples. Before she can respond, the bailiff calls our case number. Inside the courtroom, I sit ramrod straight beside Mark, while Dad's attorney presents their opening statement, painting me as an ungrateful daughter who misunderstood normal family financial planning. The judge, a woman in her 60s with shrewd eyes behind rimless glasses, listens without expression. Mark rises when our turn comes. His voice carries through the room as he lays out each document, bank transfers coinciding with Parker's tuition payments, withdrawal slips with my forged signature, Grandma Clara's explicit trust instructions, and Dad's systematic violations as trustee. Your Honor, this isn't merely poor financial management, Mark concludes. This is deliberate fraud perpetrated against Miss Bennett at a time when she was hospitalized and unable to protect her interests. The judge's eyes narrow as she examines the signature comparisons. Her gaze lifts to Dad, who shifts in his seat. When called to testify, I approach the stand with steady steps. The oath feels heavy on my lips. Miss Bennett, Mark begins, please explain your financial contributions to your family household. I recall the exact figures. $15,387 last year alone. I describe working 2 jobs while taking online classes. I detail discovering Grandma Clara's trust only after Parker received his graduation condo. Dad's attorney attempts to rattle me during cross-examination. Isn't it true your parents provided housing, food, and support your entire life? Yes, I answer, and I provided over $40,000 in financial assistance and hundreds of hours of unpaid bookkeeping services for their business since I was 18. When Dad takes the stand, his composure slips under the judge's direct questioning about the signatures. These were family funds, he snaps. I made decisions as head of the household. Mr. Bennett, the judge says, removing her glasses, a trust isn't a household decision. It's a legal obligation. This appears to be a deliberate breach of fiduciary duty. Dad's face flushes crimson. My daughter has always been difficult. That's enough, the judge cuts in. We'll take a 20-minute recess. In the hallway, Dad's attorney corners Mark with a manila folder. I stand close enough to hear the offer. $125,000 to settle, half of what was stolen. Tell her to take it, Dad's attorney mutters. Family disputes get ugly. Mark glances at me. I shake my head once. The offer climbs to $175,000 before recess ends. They're scared now, Mark says. They know how this looks. I want what was meant for me, I tell him. Not a penny less. Mom finds me near the water fountain, eyes swimming with tears. I knew it wasn't right, she whispers. But I didn't stop it. I just wanted peace. I look at her, really look at her, perhaps for the first time. The woman who taught me watercolors on Sunday afternoons, who never raised her voice, who never stood up for me either. This isn't about punishment, Mom. It's about justice. Sometimes peace costs too much. When court resumes, the judge delivers her ruling with clipped precision. Full restoration of the trust fund plus legal fees, additional penalties for fraudulent misappropriation, a formal accounting of all trust assets within 30 days. Furthermore, she adds, looking directly at Dad, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association given Mr. Bennett's legal license and position of trust. Outside the court later, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps. I decline their shouted questions with a polite headshake. Dad brushes past me, fury radiating from his rigid spine as he pushes through the crowd. Parker hangs back, hands jammed in his pockets. Sierra, his voice cracks. I didn't understand what we were doing. I pause, studying my brother's face. The boy who got everything I didn't, who never questioned why. Understanding requires wanting to see the truth, I tell him quietly. Then I walk down the steps alone, toward the car where Aunt Susan waits, toward whatever comes next. The spring air feels clean in my lungs. For the first time in years, I breathe all the way down to my stomach. In weeks to come, the news travels fast in our suburban Chicago circles. I learn about Dad's professional fallout from Aunt Susan, not because I seek the information, but because it arrives with my morning coffee at her kitchen table. Robert's been asked to step down from the Community Foundation Board, Susan says, sliding the local business journal across the table. His name appears in a small article on page 3. The Chamber of Commerce is next, from what I hear. I push the journal aside without reading further. I'm not collecting trophies from his downfall. No one would blame you if you took some satisfaction in it. I've got balance sheets to review for my first real client. I tap my laptop. That's more satisfying than watching him lose face. Susan studies me over her reading glasses, then nods once. The quiet approval in her expression means more than she knows. My phone buzzes with a text. Mom's name appears on the screen, still listed as Mother rather than Elaine, a small resistance to complete detachment I haven't yet overcome. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Just us. 3 months since the court ruling, and this is her 5th request. I've declined the previous 4. My finger hovers over the screen before typing, Perkins Cafe, 10 a.m. Susan notices my expression. Elaine, I nod. She wants to meet, and you're going this time? Not a question. Time to hear what she has to say. I close my laptop. Judge her actions now, not just her past failures. The following morning, Mom sits at a corner table in Perkins, looking smaller somehow. Her pearl necklace is absent, replaced by a simple silver pendant. Her hands wrap around her mug, as if seeking warmth despite the June heat outside. Thank you for coming, she says when I slide into the seat across from her. Her voice catches. I've left your father. The statement hangs between us. I wait for more, taking a measured sip of the coffee I've ordered. I rented an apartment near the community college. She straightens slightly. I'm teaching children's art classes there. Part-time, but it's a start. A start toward what? Toward being someone I'm not ashamed to face in the mirror. Her eyes meet mine directly, something she rarely did during family confrontations. I enabled something terrible, Sierra. I can't continue pretending our family was what I wanted people to believe it was. I study her face, looking for the performative grief she's perfected at country club functions. Instead, I find something raw and unfamiliar. Authenticity. We have a long way to go, I tell her finally. Not forgiveness, not yet, but an acknowledgement that doors aren't permanently closed. My phone pings with a notification. A text from Parker, his first communication since the hearing. I'm moving to Colorado. I need a fresh start. The condo's on the market. You'll get the proceeds through Mark. I never thought about how unfair it all was. I'm sorry. I read it twice before responding. Growth begins with honesty. I hope you find yours. Simple words that cost me nothing but mean everything. I've stopped measuring my responses by how much pain they might cause others and started measuring them by their truth. A week later, I signed papers on a small craftsman house 3 blocks from Lake Michigan. Nothing extravagant. 2 bedrooms, a front porch with a swing, and windows that flood the rooms with morning light. The real estate agent hands me the keys with congratulations on my starter home. It's not a starter, I correct her. It's exactly what I want. My accounting practice grows steadily. 3 clients, then 5, then 12. Word spreads about the young accountant who notices discrepancies others miss, who explains complex tax issues in straightforward language. My grandmother's trust money sits mostly untouched in investments, a safety net I maintain but don't depend on. You've built something real here, Mark observes during our quarterly review meetings. Most people who experience what you did would still be licking their wounds. Wounds heal faster when you stop picking at them, I reply, showing him my business projections for the coming year. The email arrives on a Thursday evening as I'm reviewing client files. From Denise Harrington, a name from elementary school. Someone I shared lunch tables with until our paths diverged in high school. Sierra, I heard about everything that happened with your family. I'm back in the area after a divorce and could use a friendly face from simpler times. Coffee sometime? Old Sierra would have questioned the timing, wondered if this was curiosity disguised as connection. New Sierra simply responds, I'd like that. How's Saturday? Our coffee meeting on Sunday turns into brunch, then a walk along the lakeshore. Denise's laughter comes easily, her questions genuine. She doesn't dance around what happened, acknowledges it, then moves forward. By fall, we have a standing Sunday morning hiking date, weather permitting. Family isn't always blood, she says, as we watch sunset colors play across the water. Sometimes it's who sees you clearly and stays anyway. On Clara's birthday, I visit her grave with wildflowers gathered from my own garden. The cemetery is quiet, fallen leaves creating a copper carpet between the stones. I trace the letters of her name with my fingertip. You saw what was coming, I whisper. You tried to protect me even after you were gone. I placed the flowers against her headstone with a small note tucked among the stems. Thank you for seeing me. The wind lifts my hair as I stand, carrying the scent of autumn and possibility. Clara gave me more than money. She gave me the blueprint for a life built on integrity rather than appearance. Her legacy isn't just in my bank account, it's in every choice I make that honors truth over convenience. I drive home as sunset fades to twilight, to a house that's entirely mine, filled with only the things and people I choose to welcome. At present, I stand on my porch, watching the sunset paint Lake Michigan in strokes of amber and gold. 1 year, 365 days, since I walked away from my parents' mahogany dining table and the life built on pretense. The lake breeze carries the scent of spring blossoms from my small garden. I've planted everything myself, perennials that return stronger each season. The metaphor isn't lost on me. My accounting practice occupies the renovated sunroom of this modest lakeside cottage. 4 walls of windows where light pours in and spreadsheets make perfect sense. 27 clients now, mostly small businesses tired of being overlooked by larger firms, people who appreciate precision and honesty. Sierra, you've got to try this. Hannah holds out a glass of something fizzy and pink, my latest creation. I accept the drink from my friend, a word that means something entirely different now. Friends aren't people who tolerate you at family functions. They're the ones who show up on moving day with boxes and takeout, who text to check if you need anything when you're working late. My modest living room holds 6 people tonight, gathered around a homemade cake with 27 candles. No crystal glasses or imported scotch, just genuine laughter that doesn't require maintaining appearances. To Sierra, says Marcus, my first client who became a friend, raising his glass, who proves that the best revenge is building something beautiful. I shake my head. Not revenge, just peace. Later, after my friends have gone, the phone rings. Mom's number. Our relationship exists now in careful coffee meetings every few weeks. Her art classes keep her busy, her voice stronger with each conversation. Happy birthday, Sierra. No theatrics in her tone, just quiet sincerity. I thought about you all day. Thank you. I settle into my porch swing. How's the watercolor class going? My students are showing real progress. A pause. I'm teaching them to paint what they see, not what they think should be there. The irony hangs between us. We both hear it. That's a valuable lesson, I say finally. Yes. Another pause. Parker called yesterday. He's interviewing for an assistant manager position at a sporting goods store in Denver. No family business, no condo, just finding his way on his own terms. I hope it works out for him. He asked for your number. I said I'd check with you first. Growth comes in small steps. You can give it to him. After we hang up, I retrieve Grandma Clara's journals from my bookshelf. They've become a roadmap through my own history. Her elegant handwriting chronicles 3 generations of Bennett family patterns, the favoritism shown to sons, the daughters expected to accommodate and support without recognition. The cycle ends with you, she wrote in her final entry, as if she knew I would someday read it. Last week, I met with Zoe, a 22-year-old starting her own graphic design business. She brought messy finances and dreams too big for her 1-bedroom apartment. Everyone says I should get a real job first, she told me, uncertainty creasing her forehead. Build something that reflects your values, not others' expectations, I replied, surprised by the certainty in my voice. The foundation matters more than how quickly the walls go up. The Christmas card from Dad remains unopened in my desk drawer. Some bridges stay burned by choice, not accident. From my porch, I can see the entirety of my rebuilt life, the garden I planted, the office where I work, the kitchen where I cook meals that nourish rather than impress. Everything chosen, nothing inherited except Clara's watch on my wrist and her wisdom in my decisions. The greatest inheritance wasn't the trust fund that secured my freedom, though I remain grateful for Clara's foresight. It was the courage she modeled, the willingness to recognize when walking away creates more value than staying. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting for your place at a table set by someone else. It's building your own table, measuring the wood yourself, and inviting people who see you clearly to sit there.